New efforts to regulate homeschooling in Illinois have touched off a heated debate. Backers say Illinois is one of 12 states without any homeschooling regulations. A new bill aims to change that by requiring families to register with their local school district if they plan to homeschool their children. Supporters say it's aimed at ensuring kids are getting the education they need and are better protected from potential neglect. Here's a bit from a hearing last week in Springfield.
This bill was written in part by people who were homeschooled and get the need to balance children's rights and a parent's freedom to choose how they educate their kids. It provides a safe baseline to protect kids from the small minority of parents who use homeschooling as a way to hide abuse or neglect their children.
This bill will intimidate and discourage parents from choosing this much better option for their children. This bill will impose additional burdens on already stretched local schools, police departments, and courts. This bill would require school districts to manage increased administrative tasks related to homeschooling.
Joining us now with more are Latasha Fields, a homeschooling parent, and via Zoom, Democratic State Representative Tara Costa-Howard. Thank you both for joining us. Latasha Fields, I'd like to begin with you, please. You've been homeschooling your children for 18 years after you took your eldest out of public school. What motivated you to start homeschooling?
Yes, so it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Nick, for having me. Well, for us, it was a call of God, our faith as Christians. So it was about discipleship and a biblical worldview. We have 4. My oldest is 28. She's a homeschool with the college grad. We just graduated our second oldest in May of 2024, and he's entering trade into a welding program. And we have 2 more, a 15-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. Yes. And so we also have a micro school, so I tend to say I have a lot of babies.
Yeah, quite the clan.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Representative Costa-Howard, we mentioned some of those concerns folks raised about overreach. That includes, mandating certain elements of the curriculum. What exactly does this bill call for students to be taught?
Well, actually, that is already the current law here in Illinois, that they have to be taught language arts, science, math, social studies, health, physical education. That's already current law. So that's nothing new.
Latasha Fields, do you think any of these sorts of registration requirements, for example, will that significantly affect you and other parents who homeschool?
Yes, absolutely. And so our proponents of this bill claim that it's just formality, it's just a form. Well, we're looking at the bill, it's not just a form. This 60-page bill will entail truancy, penalty, criminality. Parents that don't comply would have 30 days in jail. They would have $500 fines. And also with the whole idea of the core curriculum with the educational review, the current way that the Illinois law is, we don't have to produce an educational portfolio. And it does cite that we would have to satisfy the public education. And so because of what Pritzker signed in 2021 with Comprehensive Sex Ed, the LGBTQ plus ideology, and the LGBT history, that in itself is religious persecution for us. That violates our First Amendment. So we don't need to produce or have government look at our educational portfolio. Another big clause that's in this bill that's very disturbing is that the bill states that Illinois has a fundamental goal for every student in the state of Illinois, that their educational development is to serve the public purposes of the state. And so we as homeschool parents, we do not educate our children to serve the public purpose of the state. So that in itself tells us that our children, according to this bill, will be state property, and that parallels slavery. Where families have no autonomy, where my ancestors had no autonomy, and so we don't want our children to become property of the state. So there's a lot of disingenuousness in this bill. There's a lot of egregious, draconian things in this bill that we do not stand for. In terms of registration, as Illinois stands, there is voluntary registration, so we don't have to be forced to register our homeschool programs.
Representative Costa-Howard, how about that, tackling at least first the idea of sort of mandating these elements of the curriculum? Is that the intention of this bill?
The intention of the bill is for the subjects to be taught. There's nothing in this bill that requires mandated curriculum that is taught in public school. So that is misinformation. That is incorrect. That is part of why some of these pieces were written in a way to actually give homeschool families the opportunity to be as creative as many of them are in how they teach. And as long as they're teaching the subjects that all children in the state of Illinois are required to be taught as at a high level, there's nothing that requires the curriculum that is in public schools. As far as the criminality, that's simply not true. Currently, truancy laws have that already built into the state law. So if there's a concern about the way the truancy laws are written, that's a different subject. What the declaration form does is make sure that we know that kids are alive, where they are. We want to make sure that they're okay. And that's what the declaration form does.
You know, Latasha Fields, how about that? You know, supporters say this can help prevent potential abuse and neglect because students who are being homeschooled, although there isn't any, evidence to back up that it's happening at higher rates, it still certainly can happen, and they don't have the eyes of teachers or other school officials on them the way students in a public school might. You know, what's your take on that
Well,
argument?
I believe that as many of us, over 48,000 of us in the state of Illinois, submitted witness slips that we disagree with this position that, that there's any idea that homeschool students are being abused. The public school system has failed. So this bill is very disingenuous. We have right now over 1,000 sexual allegations in Chicago public schools. And as of 2024, the Inspector General said there's over 400 cases. So my question to Representative Costa, what are you doing about the sexual allegation and the abuse that's in Chicago public school systems? Because if it's all about a form where these babies are not being protected in the system that they govern, in the system that they have jurisdiction over. So that is appalling. And so we as homeschoolers, we do not need a system that's already broken, that has already proven that it has failed to govern us. And when we talk about proficiency, when you talk about educational proficiency, in the state of Illinois, there's 1.9 million students, and only 39% of those babies can read at grade level, and only 29% or 28% are proficient in math. And then when you go to Chicago public school system, for the black babies, they're doing even worse. It's unconscionable. Only 20% of black children in Chicago public school system can read on grade level, and only 9% are proficient in math. So when we talk about wanting kids to have a quality education, homeschoolers far exceed that. They far exceed that expectation. Black students that are homeschooled have 15 to 42% percentile points higher than their public school peers. So I'm in agreement with Representative Costa. We want quality education. That's why we're homeschooling. That's why we have exited from government education system. And so for us, this seems like a pursuit, like we're being punished for the failures of government education.
Representative, how about that? I mean, would this at all, go after, quote unquote, homeschooling parents?
No, we don't believe that it does in any way, shape, or form. In fact, some of the issues that were raised, I think she's correct. We want to make sure that all kids have a high-quality education. And if you actually take a look at the statistics that are on the State Board of Education website, our 8th graders are doing great. We're seeing those numbers come around for our students here in Illinois. That's a good thing. But I would like to address the comment that she made regarding sexual abuse in Chicago public schools. We have laws on the book that require anyone who comes in contact with our children in our school setting to have a criminal background check. If you are being homeschooled, there's nothing. You are not subject to any laws. I want to be clear. 38 states have this requirement on the books to declare that you are homeschooling your children. 38 states. We here in Illinois are an outlier. We know that if this is happening in Florida, West Virginia, Louisiana, they are not making these same complaints. We are the outlier here in Illinois, where we have zero regulations. And so we are not here to punish anyone. In fact, we want to applaud those families that are being transparent and are doing it so well. But frankly, the statistics that are being recited, there's no statistic out there that actually says that homeschool students are better. That's actually accurate. We don't know how many homeschool students there actually are here in the state of Illinois, because They don't register. They don't have to declare anything. And so we don't really know how many children there are. So we have no data that actually backs up what is being said. What we do know is that we have children who have passed away, who have died at the hands of abusive parents. That is what we want to protect.
Yep. And Representative, I know we've got much more that we could possibly say about this. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here for this evening. Representative Tara Costa Howard, Latasha Fields, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.